When you're a business owner, or if you're an executive, you're a busy parent, life happens. There's deaths. You can't pay rent. You can't pay payroll. You're going to lose a gym. COVID hits. Altercation with an employee or employees. It's tough. It's stressful. It's uncertain. And what you brought up was, do you find it at peace knowing that you have to just do this workout?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that was the only thing certain in my life in the 5 years. And it's very similar to someone having a ritual of running every morning,
Right.
or walking in the morning, or meditating in the morning. Murph was my meditation.
Mm-hmm. Should I try this?
Don't try it. Train it. Trying means you're just going to go out there and just nonchalantly get after it, and then you're going to get rhabdo. Training for it means you're going to change your life in some format. I'm going to start eating a little better. I'm going to start running. I'm going to start walking every single day. Training is habitual. Trying is like temporary.
Mm-hmm.
The 11 minutes you see is almost 11 years worth of training, not trying.
Mm-hmm.
And it's hard for people to grasp because it's really aggressive, but that's how I would speak to myself now. Do you want an awesome business? Stop trying, train. Do you want an awesome relationship? Well, start creating a cadence to train an awesome relationship. I know what they mean. Like, should I try this? And I love it. I love that you said that, but I really do encourage you to evolve that word from try to train.
Mm-hmm.
Because trying is not very fruitful. Training is where it's at.
Welcome to the Coaches Podcast. On today's episode, we'll be doing a deep dive into my husband's documentary, 1,000 Days of Murph. If you haven't already seen it, please go back and watch that. Then come back here because we'll be answering some of the most common questions that you all asked. So thank you so much for everybody who has watched and commented, and you gave us a lot of good questions to talk about today. So are you so excited?
Yeah.
And I get to interview you today.
I know, that was weird. But
Yeah.
the other side was you did that in one shot.
Yeah, one take.
Normally that takes me like 50 minutes. So I'm super impressed.
Thanks.
Okay.
I'm
let's do it.
excited. So I have a lot of questions that I came up with for you today. The first one, I actually don't know if you can answer the first part of it.
Yeah.
But I'm really curious to know if you remember the first time that you ever did Murph, because our CrossFit community has been doing this workout for over 10 years.
Mm-hmm.
And maybe you can even describe to people who are not from like this community or another CrossFit community, the hero workouts, which are workouts that are written to honor those who have been killed in action, given the ultimate sacrifice for our country, how those workouts feel different when we do those as a community. So maybe if you can't remember your first Murph, maybe even remembering.
I could remember it.
Oh, you can?
Yeah.
Okay.
It was in 24-hour fitness.
Yes.
But
Okay.
but the thing was we didn't do it. We didn't run outside. We ran on the treadmill. And
Did you wear the vest?
Yeah. It was the hardest workout. You've seen those videos. I was like soaking wet, 115 pounds.
Yeah.
Right. So it was hard. Like it took us almost 90 minutes to probably closer to 2 hours.
Okay.
Right. And it wasn't even the pull-ups. It was the last mile. The last mile was essentially a walk because you're just not used to that volume and you're just cramping up. And back then I didn't know how to eat. I didn't know how to sleep. I didn't know how to foam roll. I didn't know how to do any pull-ups. There was just so many variables and skill sets that I haven't even close to even maxed out that it was hard.
Yeah. And maybe you could describe, so that was back in 24-hour fitness days, meaning this was before you were a gym owner. When I had met you at this point, this was like 12 or some years ago, you were very small. You had just started CrossFitting. Like you said, you didn't have much volume. Do you remember then when you opened your gym and we started to do as a community more of these hero type workouts? Like, how would you describe that to someone? How do those workouts feel different? Like, what do we do before the workout to kind of prep people for them, and how do they feel as you're going through them?
Well, typically, I think hero workouts are just longer.
Yeah.
And they're difficult in some version, whether it's the volume, it could be the load, or it could be the type of movement, right? And a lot of times when we prepare our students to go through something like that, we want them to think of sacrifice. We want them to think of the abundance that we do truly have in here, and why we continually have it. So we normally have these moments of silence where we're paying tribute to what they did, right? And also, we always encourage them that there will be a point where you want to quit. There will be a point where you want to stop. There will be a point where you probably have to slow down. But I encourage you to tap into those moments where you realize you have this abundance. You get to choose. You get to choose this. You don't have to do this.
Yeah.
Right? Some people don't have the opportunity to even choose this level of pain, and you get to decide to do that, and it's usually the energy for something like that is very rare. Like, they're just like, you have a group of 20 to 30 people just giving it everything they got, whether it's as the workout is prescribed or something that is modified. But regardless, it's still inspiring because you can just tell someone's a different person. They're a different level. So there's something about it that's spiritual that just like, I got to push harder.
Yeah, I love that. And I think too, when I went through the comments of the documentary, it was interesting because I didn't realize how many people didn't know what the Murph workout was, just because in our world, everybody knows what it is. Like I said, we've done the workout for over 10 years or other hero type workouts. So I thought it would be good to also just talk about a little bit of the backstory to Murph. And I'm going to put some links. We'll put links in the show notes too for people to find out more information. But essentially, the Murph workout was in honor of Michael Murphy. He was a Navy SEAL who was killed in action June 28th, 2005, in the war in Afghanistan in Operation Red Wings. So there's two popular movies that people could also go and watch to find out a little bit more about his life.
There's two?
Yeah, there's The Lone Survivor,
I know
which
that
is
one,
the one that we've watched many times. But there's the documentary, Murph the Protector.
Oh, cool. I don't think I've watched that one.
I haven't either. So
Smokes.
I just found out about that one today. But that's the actual documentary that is written from his friends and family about his life. So we will link to those as well as his memorial scholarship fund. And so the Murph Challenge is the yearly fundraiser for his foundation. And so CrossFit
We've
gyms
it a few times too.
Yeah.
Yep.
We've posted that. We've fundraised on Memorial Day. And that's when a lot of people around the world actually do the workout. But the Murph workout has also been done by CrossFit Games athletes in the games. And in the beginning of the documentary, you say what the actual workout is, but can you remind people what the workout is?
So it's a very long workout. Typically, it's an endurance type of workout. So if you want to breathe and move for an hour long, I think it's a perfect stimulus for that. But the workout starts with a 1 mile run, and it also ends with a 1 mile run. And there's specific reasons for that, especially as you start to really understand kind of Murph's journey. So after the 1 mile run, you have 100 pull-ups, 200 push-ups, and 300 air squats. And then a 1 mile run at the end. Yeah. Right.
And it should be done with a weighted vest.
And it should be done with a 20-pound weighted vest, which is really a tribute to what Murph did on a daily basis. He ran miles, and he ran miles with the vest, and he was just known for that person. Every morning he would just run. Right. So it's in memory of that. And I think it's special because of that. And some people don't do it with the vest. Some people just do regular weight, which is just as difficult.
Right.
That's it.
That's what I was going to ask you too, because in the documentary, we didn't talk about the ways that you can partition it. And I think that people also want to know, is there a right way to do it? And so I think it's cool because in the documentary, you do show different versions of how you end up doing it, because you partitioned it just like we do when we do it together as a community, kind of the classic ways that maybe you can talk about. But then you also got bored with those. So then you did some fun versions. So I want to talk about those different versions or more challenging versions too. But to start, is there a right way to do it?
I mean, I don't know if there's a right way. I think part of what makes Murph special is that partition component. You can partition it any way. Yeah. But if you truly look at it from the game's format, it's just straight through. So you do the mile, 100 pull-ups, 200 push-ups, 300 air squats, and then a mile run back.
Yeah.
Now, when we have our classes, it's a free-for-all. That's what makes this exciting, and a lot of times you can kind of understand their personality based on how they break it up. They might be the big chunks person, or maybe they might do just little wins, or it's ascending order. But for the most part, I want to say 80 to 90% of my journey was just the classic 5, 10, 15, 5 pull-ups, 10 push-ups, 15 air squats for 20 plus rounds. It requires little effort in terms of just consciously thinking about the rep scheme. But once in a while, you'll switch up the rep scheme and do something like, I'm going to do 10 rounds, 10, 20, 30. I'll do 15 rounds of 7, 14, 21. There's so many different ways you can partition in. That's actually very healing in some ways, because life is not one cut path. And switching that up once in a while is pretty cool.
Yeah. And I actually like that you don't feel like there's one right way to do it. And like for this workout, that's kind of the fun. And so maybe you could also speak to, I think there was a few that we got to see clips of in the documentary, like you doing the handstands. I know you talked about doing the within 24 hours, you tried to see how many you could do. Yeah. What were some of the highlights of ones that you did?
Well, first off, it's like, why would I do something like that?
Yeah.
Something in the documentary was, you do something long enough, you're going to get super bored with it. And partly why I decided to just do one workout for the next 30, 75 to 100 days was just like my business ADHD. And you've seen me. I'll go from one project to the next. Like, I'll start another business, and then I'll start another gym. And you're like, what's going on? I'll take on another certification. I'll do this. And I noticed there was a flaw in my values. And the flaw was focus, right? So for a while, it was just Murph. Like, I'm just going to do Murph. But at some point, you start to hate it. And then when you start to hate it, it's like, why am I going to keep doing this if I start to hate it? So part of me doing the next one, or looking forward to the next one, is doing something special around it. Whether the volume was more, whether one of the movements was slightly different, right? So I always just kind of did that intentionally, just to heal the boredom side of it. But I still did it, right? So that's like a big reason why I started just to do different ones.
Yeah, which was fun, because I think as somebody who saw you doing it, and a lot of people didn't know that you were doing it even in the gym, but like our coaches knew. So like our staff, they knew that you were doing it, and some people did because they would join you. But it was fun that like someone would start asking you after a few months, like, oh, are you doing it today? And you're like, yeah, I'm actually going to do the bear crawl version. Like, not a lot of people were there, because sometimes it was on a Saturday. So it'd be like you had coached, and then it was after class, and it was mostly you just doing it kind of by yourself. But yeah, maybe you could talk about, I know for the bear crawl one, there was some interesting lessons that you learned with that one.
So there's a bunch of ones. I mean, I don't know if you want to tap into it. Are you looking to jumpstart your journey, or just excited to take on a new challenge? Over the next 30 days, we are running our first ever cohort designed to get you easy wins in your fitness goals. Over the next 30 days, the team and I are going to be providing nutritional guidance, fitness support, and best of all, you're going to be surrounded with like-minded people that are looking to grow. If you've been looking to jumpstart your fitness, create new habits, start your weight loss goal, or maybe your workout's just been a little bit stale and you want to challenge yourself, this cohort is going to be for you. Now, if you're ready to take on this challenge, go to our show notes below, sign up to our free Move 30 challenge, and I'll see you guys there. Now, back to the show. Peace to it. The hardest ones were the ones I didn't expect were going to be hard. Mm-hmm. And then the easiest ones were the ones that I expected to be difficult. Mm-hmm. So some of the hardest versions was bear crawl Murph. And like you ask me to do it now, I get kind of hives just thinking about it.
Yeah.
Primarily because of how long it took and what 10 feet felt like. So, and your hands are shredded and your neck is trapped up. It's hard to breathe. You're getting weird like wrist pain from doing all the bear crawls. So there's this fear of like, I'm not going anywhere. Mm-hmm. You look down and you crawl for like 20 seconds and you look up and you're in the same place.
Yeah.
That's why it made it so difficult. You didn't realize in my mind, because I told you this was during Thanksgiving. Mm-hmm. I was like, I'm just going to do bear crawl Murph right before because I want to eat as much as I possibly can. You're like, cool. 4 hours later, yeah. Right? I thought it was going to be a 1 hour ordeal. Mm-hmm. But literally the first hour was the first mile. Like I didn't expect it. It was probably faster than that. And then the in-between was really quick. It felt like it was a breeze. It was the second mile trying to crawl that was gruesome. And partly because, I mean, it's still kind of hot. It's Vegas.
Yeah. You
know, and after I ran through 2 gloves. So eventually there was like a little bit of pain on the hands. But that was a tough one because of the unexpected length. Mm-hmm. And then there was this battle in my head that's going in my mind. Like my wife is going to be so mad. I told her I was going to be out for just about 2 hours and now it's a 4-hour ordeal. But I texted you throughout. I was like, I'm almost there. I got like 800 meters left.
I think I called you and you were still in it.
Yeah.
And you're like, I'm almost done. And I'm like, okay, just want to make sure you're fine. Because I know that at this point, no one else is at the gym. Like it's you by yourself. There isn't anyone on a Saturday who's going to be there. So just checking in like on your safety.
It was a Thursday.
I didn't have to come and rescue you on that one, but I've had to come one other time. Was that the burpee one?
The burpee 1,000. Yeah. So that really quick on that was a big one. Then the second one that was also really hard was 1,000 burpees on top of Murph. Mm-hmm. So what people don't realize, like before I even started Murph, we started a journey called 75 Hard, which was just blew my mind. I didn't even know that thing existed.
Yeah.
Someone told me about it. I was like, how come I'm not in this challenge? I think... Like, I don't know if you believe in God, the universe, God will place things in front of you in ways where you're kind of scared about it, but you're also going to love it at the same time.
Yeah.
I have this affinity for massive challenges. I have this affinity to really be captivated by people like Goggins or the Iron Cowboy or Ross Edgley. These guys just do massive endurance feats. Mm-hmm. You know, and it's like, I didn't even know that about myself, but I'm fascinated about it. Like you tell someone an example is like someone jumping off a cliff and doing like a triple back dive. I'm not interested in that. Mm-hmm. But for some reason, these guys putting in hours and hours of work where no one's looking. And it's like, it's hard. It's physically demanding. It's possibly impossible. It's reckless. It's nearly like that attracts me. Mm-hmm. So 75 Hard started that for me.
And that was the first time that you did that was in 2020.
Yeah, it was like years ago. So we did 75 Hard. And guys, I'm telling you this to be completely honest. The workouts in 75 Hard, the 2-a-days, were way harder than what I did in Murph. Mm-hmm. That's what people don't realize, right? We were doing classes at a high level and I was doing different workouts, right? Sometimes it was a hero workout. And sometimes it was Murph. It didn't matter. There was the outside workout was always the most difficult part because inside was great.
Yeah.
Right. So we did that for 75 days. And then you're going through the app. And then when you finish the app, it's like, do you want to join Live Hard? Mm-hmm. And of course, I'm going to press that button. Like, what is this? And it's a whole year's worth of 75 hard and then they add more things like cold plunges, talk to a random stranger, right? I was like, there's no way. So I decided to join that along with like 3 or 4 coaches.
Yeah.
Like, let's do it.
So for people who don't know and maybe have heard of 75 hard, people think that's it. Like 75 hard, you complete it and that's it. I don't think most people know that there's even more to it. Mm-hmm. So just to get a sense of like my husband's personality, of course, he knows of that and completed a year's worth afterwards just because that is the type of person that you are. And I love that there was also some other people in our community who did it with you.
There's a bunch of them, yeah.
But that I think is really great to see kind of like your journey of what you were doing fitness-wise and even for your mental strength and the journey that you are always somehow drawn to. Like I know there's a spiritual component to it, but it is kind of fun to look back. And for people who know you, they're not surprised that you did something like this challenge. But a lot of people who saw the documentary did not know that about you.
Yeah, they think it's like just on the whim. No, I've been doing, it started with like 3 workouts a week and then 5. And then at some point, actually, that the 5 that turned into 7 was a comment from you. He's like, why don't you work out on the weekends? And I was like, why? How come I don't? It's because I was so crabby on the weekends. And you're like, you need to go work out.
Yeah.
And that started the 7 days. That was pre-Murf or pre-75 hard. So I was already doing some of these things just naturally, but I didn't know there was a challenge for it. So essentially what that challenge did was it just took what I did on a regular basis sometimes and I did it daily.
Right. The consistency is the biggest difference. So, and then you did that for even more than just the 75 days. You did that for a year afterwards. And then you've also continued to do 75 hard in some capacity for the last few years, even after.
Well, yeah. So we did the 75 hard. And I'm finishing the year. And I had somewhere around like 100 left to do the whole live hard.
Yeah.
That's when my back got messed up. And that's why I'm telling you guys, the 75 was harder because I was training like I wanted to compete.
Yeah.
I was maxing out my squats, my deadlifts, and then also doing all of these other things. And then your back gives out with like 100 days left.
Right.
And I was heartbroken. I was like, dude, there's no way I'm not going to finish this. I'm so deep into this that I can't. And that's when it started. It's like, Corey, what am I going to do? And he's like, well, what movements can you do? And Corey, if you guys want to know, Corey's my massage therapy guy. Reason why I'm probably able to do a lot of the volume, especially during that time, and I continually do the volume, is because of some of these guys helping me out. So Corey was like, can you air squat? And I was like, yeah. Can you do a push-up? And I was like, yeah. Can you like walk? And I was like, yeah. He's like, why don't you just try Murph?
Yeah.
And then I was like, that's perfect. That might take me 2 hours just to walk.
Right.
And that's where it started. So I tweaked my back and he's like, bro, I think you can't even, I wouldn't lift any weights for a minute. How bad you're looking. I was hobbling, like it just wasn't good. And I just started with Murph the first day. And ironically, the second day I felt really good. Like I can actually run, you know, and I wasn't able to still. I mean, I would run and then I would like have these spasms. And then somewhere around like 6-7 days, I was actually doing the full thing without the vest. And then I asked Corey, I was like, do you think you can do it for 7 days with the vest? You know, and he's like, I don't know. I'll do it with you. So it wasn't just me doing these challenges. Corey was like, I'll do it.
Yeah, there was other people that started to see you doing it and to join you, which I feel like was really cool. And that we didn't really get to show that in the documentary, but I know that you did mention it started with the injury. And I think for some people, like a question that I have for you, because I could tell that it was coming up in comments, is people were thinking you started this like in documentary mode.
Like thinking that
like
it was going to be a
thinking
documentary.
it was going to be. So maybe you could describe essentially, like there is a part where you recognize that Jim Broski, where you were posting on Instagram, like he had also done Murph. So there's other people who were doing kind of this volume. and how fun it was that you started to then also post videos just to Instagram. Like we didn't have, we didn't have YouTube.
I did. I dabbled with it. I just
it was
learning.
Just small, right?
It wasn't hours though. I couldn't figure it out.
So just maybe you can speak to how a lot of the footage was actually captured, and was it for the purpose of a documentary? Did you ever think it would be turned into a documentary?
No, the answer is no. I didn't know there was going to be a documentary. In fact, somewhere around 700, 800, I just stopped posting.
Yeah.
Right. And primarily because it just took too much time. 60 seconds of work, an hour of time. It wasn't an hour, but it started out like an hour. And then eventually it's diluted down to like 20 minutes to, it sucks. Right. It's just really annoying at some point. But no, I didn't think there was going to be a documentary from it. A lot of times, like, what's really interesting, like inside that journey, I started my spiritual journey. I really started to dive in the Bible, and I started to dive into sermons. A majority of my mile runs are just sermons every day, and you're just listening to God's word all day. And what's really interesting over that journey is like people will come into your life for really interesting reasons. So this was like at 900 and, I'm already stopped posting.
Yeah.
And I'm still doing it. We had a guy named Connor, and he's a singer in Vegas, and he joined our gym. And he just saw me. He's like, "What are you doing? Are you doing Murph?" And I was like, "Yeah." And he was like, "But you did it yesterday." And I was like, "Yeah, I've been doing it for like 900 days. I'm doing it for 1,000. And he was just blown away. He was like, wait a minute. What are you saying right now? Like you haven't stopped. And I was like, yeah, I just haven't stopped. And he became a really good friend. And he was like, well, can I just do the rest with you? And we just spent all that time, and we got to know each other. And shout out to Connor, because it was awesome. Like being able to do Murph with people when you're doing it alone it's a gift, because I was been doing it by myself, and it's hard to drag someone to be like, hey, come do Murph with me.
Yeah, I've said no to you
a lot of times, right?
A lot of times.
So he's asking these questions. He's like, why? Like what's the purpose? Like, is it worth it? Like he was asking all of these amazing questions, and it got to a point where it was like, you need to document this. And I was like, it's just too long. I don't really want to do it. And he's like, I think you really need to do this. And eventually I was like, all right, maybe we'll just do the 1,000.
Yeah.
Just document the 1,000. And he was like, dude, this project is too big. You have to meet my cousin, Bronson, he's an amazing videographer. He does short form documentaries. I feel like it was like an hour long, but it's packed with message. And I'm like, if a guy's going to be able to capture what I really want to capture, which is not the physical feature of this, it's the message, I want him to do it.
Yeah.
So we collaborated, and it was like, hey, Bronson, this is what I've been doing over the course of 1,000 days. And, I think it'd be pretty cool if you can document the last day. In no like form of fashion that it was going to burn into something like this. Right. But it's like, it's those moments that people will be sprinkled in your life for a long time. And then you just take those moments and you're just like, okay, cool.
Yeah. And so what did it actually look like when Bronson came to Las Vegas? How long was he shooting for?
It's 2 days.
Yeah. It was relatively fast, right? And just not really, I didn't even realize that you were doing it. You kind of told me that someone was going to be, but honestly, it did not register. Like, I was like, okay, because you're always doing something. You're always doing projects at the gym. At this point, like you had started the podcast, so you had this room set up. You're always learning about different things. Like in media, and so I'm like, oh, okay, that kind of sounds cool. So I didn't even really realize that it was happening. And was it who kind of came up with like the script or the plan or the questions, or was it? It
started with a lunch. He just had questions. He was asking a bunch of questions. Why? When? What was the hardest? And it's like when you start to speak someone in terms of that's how they think of storytelling.
Yeah.
You can just see his wheels turning. He's like, oh my gosh, that's the message, that's the climax, that's the story, this is where the bottom is.
Mm-hmm.
Right? So he's like, okay, I got all of the questions I need. Let's go shoot.
Yeah.
So after that coffee with Bronson and Connor, they did their whole documentary thing in terms of like setting up the lighting, the space. They had their questions set up,
Mm-hmm.
And there were a ton of questions, and there was a lot of answers that were never recorded on there because it just didn't make sense in terms of building that message and building that story. And then we filmed the final one.
Mm-hmm.
Right. So, and we did that at a place where I love to do it, which is just outside.
Yeah. In your favorite park?
In my favorite park. And that's where we did the final one for the most part.
Yeah. And I love to, when I saw the documentary, I didn't realize that Brunson was going to pull all of the previous videos like from your Instagram. I don't even know how he did that, but he went back and had all of this to pull from and then had put that together. So it took him months to put together because he did so much hard work, like finding those videos. And it was really fun to see because I don't think you had ever gone back through and really looked through.
Yeah.
You were just doing it in the moment.
I was doing it in the moment, and it just became a habit. It was an accountability thing for me, accountability thing for my coaches.
Mm-hmm.
And then, like it's just another message. Like some of the stuff that you'll plant today, you'll never see for another 3 years.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's just one of the big lessons. Like you'll do things right now. People will do things right now, and you're not gonna get a single fruit from it.
Yep.
And you just got to be faithful that what you're doing is what you're called to do.
Mm-hmm.
And that's like one of the big things I just want to grasp, and one of the messages for sure.
Yeah. And I wanted to ask you too. So I went through a majority of the comments, and like 90% of the comments were so nice and they were really inspirational. And then there were some people who obviously just didn't understand some of the answers that you had talked about, like in the documentary. So one area that you talked about was like our family. Mm-hmm. So I want to read you. One of the comments was really nice from someone. They said, I think your son will be unbelievably proud of you when he's old enough to understand. Mm-hmm. And so there was, like, Lucas was featured in some of those. And so I don't think, though, like, the part that I thought was the coolest was that it became routine for you to take Lucas on Sunday to the gym, just you. And I would go hiking, or I would be like hanging out with my friends. And that was a time that you guys often did it together. Maybe you could speak a little bit to that, like how you were able to incorporate him into you doing it.
I think that was like, you think about the challenges.
Mm-hmm.
Those are harder than the 12-hour Murfs, the bear crawl Murfs, is being able to influence a toddler to do Murf with you.
Yeah.
So, but it became a massive bonding experience. And it wasn't the pull-ups that were easy to sell. It was always the run.
Mm-hmm.
So I would create games where it's like, hey, bring this sword out there. Let's go slice some zombies on the run. He's like, let's go. And we would do that for 2 miles.
Yeah.
And he would get tired, then I'd have to pick him up. But that became like a thing, and it's like there was a day where it was raining. Mm-hmm. It was raining really hard. And in Vegas, there's these little puddles or rivers that would show up. And I'm like, let's go make boats. And that's how we would do the mile run. I would inspire him, influence him to do the mile run with me. And sometimes he does it without inspiration.
Yeah. Some
days he'll just like, sure. Mm-hmm. But some days I have to really sell the fact that I have to do that. And those are the best ones. Those are the best Murfs for sure, because he's funny.
Yeah. The so favorite funny. Videos that you ever recorded, like in the beginning when you're just kind of recording it for us and like your small Instagram following, which is like mostly people that we knew in the gym.
Yeah.
Like the ones that were the most popular were the ones that Lucas was in, because you see him doing his little push-ups and he's like so proud of himself, and his air squats, which are so cute. So I feel like there was some criticism in the documentary too, where people were not understanding when you were actually being really harsh to yourself and saying there was times that you said no to doing things like in the family. So someone had said responsibilities come before routines, like family first.
Yeah.
So maybe you give your perspective, and then I'll kind of give my perspective on, do you think that you were still like a good husband, or do you think, like, looking back, like you said no too many times?
Yeah. When you look at the life circle in general, and there's like spiritual, finance, career, hobbies, family, relationships, I've always scored the lowest on that. And I've scored the lowest on that because of all of the time I spent in work. You know, it wasn't even Murph. That was fractional of the time that I spent.
Yeah.
So I have a coach, you know, and one of my objectives is to not just be good at one thing, is to expand everywhere. You know, and it's like, I'm always going to be critical. Could I always do more with my family? For sure. Because at the end of the day, that's what matters most. And to be quite honest, a lot of those messages did sting because it was true. It was true because I could have done more.
Right.
Right. But what people didn't perceive is I actually did stuff with my family. It was just, there was so many other events where I could have said yes to. But at the end of the day, it's like, I did more, way more than what my dad did. You know, like part of that healing, part of me saying that I could have done those things was me attributing to the fact that I didn't get that. I didn't get a chance to run with my dad.
Right.
I didn't get a chance to see him until I was 7.
Right. You didn't meet your dad till you're 7. So Lucas is not even 7 yet.
Yeah.
So.
And it's like, I just want to make sure I'm a better version of what my father was. And by the way, shout out to my dad. He watches this all the time. I love him, you know, and it's like, he did his best. In fact, I can imagine how good he is now comparatively to what he experienced in childhood.
Right.
So,
and that was a big sacrifice. Why you didn't meet him until he was 7 or until you were 7 was because he made such a big sacrifice to come over to the U.S. and start working and earning money to be able to then bring your family over. So we always think about that. And I think it's like once a year, usually on Lucas's birthday, that we'll say, like, can you even imagine like the hours that you've spent with Lucas, like the time that you felt bonding with him? You had never experienced that yet with your dad.
I never have, yeah. And the biggest bonding experiences was Murph with him. It's not when your family is in town. I feel more disconnected because like I can't be myself. Right? We can't just like us two connect.
Yeah.
You know, even when my family's in town and then there's all the kids, it's like they're bonding. It was never me bonding.
Yeah.
So there's those aspects. But when I mean like I wasn't there to be present and to be there, it's I'm there, but then I'm not there. That ice skating thing, I was so much in pain that I couldn't even just have fun.
Right.
Like my legs hurt so much. Like I'm like, how am I even going to, I hate skating first off. And then I'm hobbling everywhere. Like those moments, I'm there, but you're not there. It's like one of the big things is like that. You're so much in pain that you can't even be present.
Yeah.
Those were the hard moments for sure.
And I would say it's funny because you describe me being like mad at you about like those times. And for people who know me and who know us, they'd probably not really like think about that much. Like they know that I'm a pretty, I don't know, mild person. If I am mad at you, if anything, like I'll talk crap about you to like the other coaches. Like
Yep.
During the ice skating, I'm like, can you believe it? Like, look at this guy. He's like totally broken.
Mm-hmm.
He comes here. He can't even walk. Like I feel like maybe people took that too as like that I'm like so mad at you or I'm so disappointed in you. And if anything, when I saw the documentary, I was like, oh my gosh, he's so hard on himself. Like
Mm-hmm.
you're always so hard on yourself and you always are trying to strive to be better. And so I remember seeing one of the comments that someone had posted and I felt like I need to like defend my husband. So like I made a comment back of like, happy wife here. Like, and then afterwards I just realized I don't need to take that energy because people, unless they're around us and like our friends and family members, like they're probably not going to understand and that's okay. But
I'd be shocked if they could understand everything in 11 minutes.
Exactly. It's so short that like it's a lot of people filling in the blanks for what they think that might mean. But in my perspective, like I love that you committed yourself to something. When you even started 75 hard, I thought you were crazy. And then after you did it for a few months, then you're like, do you want to do it?
You did it.
And I'm like,
everyone did it.
Okay. Like you always start things that I feel like I wouldn't otherwise try because you're not scared to try them.
Mm-hmm.
And especially actually if it seems intimidating, you're like, let's go. And it takes me a little bit longer. And I think a lot of other people, even in our circle, it takes us a little bit longer. Once we see you doing it, it gives us that confidence. And we're like, oh shit, okay. If he can do it, like we can probably do it too. It might not be at that same level. Like my 75 hard looked different than yours, but I still did it. And so I think that can be the cool part to take away, and also to just honor that you are an amazing dad. So I loved seeing in the last 3 years, like how you were able to do those things and be a business owner. And so for people who are wondering, kind of the next question is, because I think some people just couldn't comprehend unless they're in our lives, like how long does it take you to do Murphs? I think people, number one, didn't know that you're a business owner, gym owner, personal trainer. I think they're thinking like you're a CPA, like an accountant, and this is like something that you do at night. And then also, what's the time commitment of like how long it took you? I think there were so many comments like, well, what's your fastest time?
Yeah.
But then maybe you could tell us like your average time or what that looked like.
Yeah. So the time commitment is very minuscule, at least for Murph. It's 45 minutes.
Right.
A majority of the time. And if I'm time crunched, I'll do it as fast as I can. Now, the longer ones, like the bear crawl ones and the 12-hour ones and the handstand ones, those are intentionally like on the weekends. Yeah. Or like I know I'm not working, so I'm going to hit it those days. Right? Or I'll split them apart if I needed to. Like there's just going to be days, like what people didn't realize is, we were running 3 gyms at the time. We had a 4th company. You know, we had a real estate thing that we were doing. It was just chaos. Yeah. Right. And I'm not saying that to brag, but I did that so I can get other people to move forward. And what people don't realize, when you're running a gym, you're going to get people that come up to you and they're going to give you excuses. And I think there's one power where I can just be like, hey, you have these excuses in front of you. I think you should just handle it. And that might work. But those are not the ones that I'm talking to. And one of the big things, and I always it's something that's in my head. I don't want to be like my dad in one way. My dad was a yeller, right? When he wanted something done, he would just yell. Very disciplinarian, very aggressive father. And it worked. And it worked for him and it works for hundreds of kids. But I don't want to be like that. If I wanted to get something done, if I wanted to influence something at a high level, I have to do it first. So part of the reason why I did 75 hard and also did the family thing and also did the business thing is to show people that it's still possible. I'm not saying it's the right path, but I'm telling you it's still possible that you can spend 30 minutes, 10 minutes, an hour out of your day to get yourself healthy. Because one thing that breaks my heart is people think that they have to just have business and then they can neglect their health and their family.
Right. That they're separate.
But I wanted to show them that because you focused on your health and you focused on your family, everything else grew from it.
Mm-hmm.
That was one of the intentions. It's like, so I always want to be louder in my actions, softer in my words.
Mm-hmm.
And those are the ones that I actually listen to. I watch them and I just watch them. I'm like, okay. And then when they say one word, I'm all in. And I wanted to influence someone at that level. So that was intentional. That was always been intentional because there's so many. I got into the sales side. I was selling so many memberships, right? But 80 of them out of the 20 had excuses that were like, oh, I can't. How am I going to be able to commit this time?
Right.
How am I going to have all this like I can't afford it. It broke my heart that they put all of these excuses up front.
Mm-hmm.
So I can't judge them. I'm like, you know what? Let me just experience it. Let me see what they're experiencing.
Right. And as a leader for not just like your family, but for your employees, for the clients that you trained for a while before COVID, like you were in person doing a lot of like health coaching at different businesses and
Mm-hmm.
things. So like it all ties together that this would be a vehicle for you to show people that it's possible.
Mm-hmm.
I think their comment was really good. It was their summary. They're like, in summary, just go. And I'm like, yeah, like just go. Like stop having these excuses of why you can't be healthy, why you can't work out like you want to. And so a lot of what we do day in and day out as a dietitian and a trainer, we're talking to people about motivation. And we always strongly believe that we need to practice what we preach. And when we push ourselves to the next level, we learn lessons that are then really helpful for other people that we can teach.
Yeah.
So I think that's kind of a beautiful part to it that was hard to describe in the documentary, being at only like 11 minutes, but there's this whole life outside of Murph where you really take that action very seriously to show up to be a good leader for like our team.
Right. I want to tap into the why really quick, if that's okay.
That's what I was going to ask you next, actually, because that's like towards the end of the documentary where they're saying like, well, what is like the purpose? And there was a point where you said the purpose is always becoming. Mm-hmm. And so, I would love to talk a little bit about what you think like the big why or the purpose is, and then I'll give my perspective as well.
So when we were doing Murph, 300 in, 400 in, 600 in, 700 in, 900 in, the first 25 in.
Yeah.
There was always one or two people that'd be like, why are you doing that? And it was never the one that I was actually doing something. Mm-hmm. Like they were doing something in life. The ones that were doing something in their life, they're like, dude, let's go. High five.
Yeah.
Right? I can't believe you're doing that. No questions asked. They just cheer you on.
They just recognize it. They cheer you on.
And they understood. And I had my mini whys. Mm-hmm. It was like a bunch of mini whys added to a big why. But the ones I started to see a pattern. When they were asking, why are you doing that? What they were asking is, and I could be completely wrong, is like, why am I not doing something for myself? Can you give me a reason why I should? Mm-hmm. And I can't do that for you. And I think there is a group of people that need a lot of whys, right? And that's going to drive them. And in fact, that's probably closer to, I have some whys that I need a place to start. And then there's some people that need doing to get their why. And I'm talking to the people that are not doing and that are not doing that have whys either. Mm-hmm. That's why I was like, screw your why and just start doing. Sometimes you'll get the why in the process. Right.
And often those people who think they need a why, if they watch somebody who doesn't have a clear one, it's very fast that they're going to criticize. And a lot of what we know about when people criticize others, it's actually just a reflection of how they feel about themselves. they're feeling
Sometimes.
like, oh my gosh, look at what he's doing. Let me criticize him instead of thinking about what my own goals are.
Yeah. Yeah. So, I mean, if you're watching this right now and you still need a why to get healthy, I'm telling you, you don't need that permission. Mm-hmm. You just need just one thing and just follow that. That's like the whole thing. Mm-hmm. It's going to present as a challenge. It's going to present as a question. It's going to present as a fear. Go through it. Mm-hmm. And then what happens is like you get all of these whys that just appear. We didn't know that this documentary was going to hit so much. After this documentary hit, I got messages of people doing, hey, Royce, I was so inspired I did my first mile. Mm-hmm. Hey, Royce, I got so inspired that this is my 10th Murph. Hey, Royce, like I needed this.
Right.
I was in a really depressed place. When you look at that and it's like, was it worth it? It's worth it. It's worth it for me to just know that one person actually did something. Mm-hmm. My whole purpose of doing that was just to inspire someone to just do one thing.
Yeah.
That's it.
And they didn't need a big why to do it. They just saw, like with 75 Hard, how you inspired our team. We saw that it was possible to do it. And then we started it. And then we found our own, like you said, whys and reasons why we would continue. Mm-hmm. And I think after watching you now doing it, and you touched on this a little bit in terms of your day-to-day as a business owner is very chaotic. Like your schedule changes all the time. What you're having to do every day changes. And so for me, I felt like, and even me encouraging you to work out on the weekends previous to doing Murph, I have always known that for you and your mental health, like working out is one of the most important things that you have to do. So like a cup filler. So if we are going on a family vacation, we're going to drive to Tucson and like see your family. We're going to be in the car for 7 hours. You better believe that we're doing Murph in the morning. Like that's just part of our routine.
Right.
And so a big why is like, I can't even imagine the day if you wouldn't work out. You're just not yourself. And then I've seen you when we had to close one of the gyms, when we had to sell our house, when we've gone through stressful times. It's like an escape for you to go and do it, that this is something that's constant. And on those days, I don't think you were doing anything crazy partitioning. It's just doing it, like just accomplishing it. Like you said, listening to sermons during it. We drew on our faith a lot in the last 4 or 5 years. And for you specifically, that was such a perfect time for you to be able to do that. So in my perspective, that's kind of your why, is like your mental health is what I took away from when people were saying like, what's his big why? I'm like, obviously his mental health.
Yeah, that was a big one. And I'm glad you noticed that, because a lot of times you don't realize it until you stop doing it.
Right.
I didn't know it was a big mental healing for me the moment I stopped doing it.
Yeah.
And the reason it's so healing is not because of the physical feature. It's not like me doing a mile run, 100 pull-ups, 200 push-ups. The healing was the learning. The whole message of it was like, I plowed through books and podcasts throughout that Murph. If you live at a gym, the last thing you want to do is listen to music.
Yeah.
Because that's all you listen to.
Right.
So what you have this affinity to just learn. So imagine learning 1 hour of something, whether it was your finances, your relationships, your health, your spiritual health, how to communicate, how to become a better leader. Imagine you're doing that 1 hour daily over the next 5 years.
Right.
What happens to your brain? That was the message.
Yeah.
Right? That was the whole message, and it still is the message. And like the body is just a vessel. That's it. But your message is different. Whatever your message is, great. My message is to deliver this. Right? It's very interesting because it was such a healing component to me, just like what you said.
Yeah.
When you're a business owner, or if you're an executive, you're a busy parent, life happens. There's deaths. You can't pay rent. You can't pay payroll. You're going to lose a gym. COVID hits, right? You have a altercation with an employee or employees, right? These things are, it's tough. It's stressful. It's uncertain. And what you brought up was, do you find it at peace knowing that you have to just do this workout? And I never thought of it. And I was like, yeah, that was the only thing certain in my life in the 5 years. I can always go back to that. And it's very similar to someone having a ritual of running every morning or walking in the morning or meditating in the morning. Murph was my meditation. Yeah. As crazy as it sounds, it became my meditation.
Yeah.
And it still is. Like, I go back to it all the time.
And people were curious. There was a few comments to say, like, are you still continuing? What does it look like now? I know the answer, but maybe you can tell us kind of what you are doing now.
I still do Murph more as a recovery day. And there's no like, I'm not trying to like crush my Murph time anymore. It's more of, all right, I got this sweet podcast I got to do. I can't wait to listen to this one. It's going to be on my next Murph. Yeah. It's actually more of, I'm excited. What book am I reading as I'm doing this is actually what more I'm excited about. But the big thing is, I've been fascinated with endurance. I think I have the gift for endurance and I have an affinity for endurance. So I've been training to really set some pretty cool records. Like 1 hour records, I think is like a perfect space for me. And again, I want to use that component to deliver another message.
Yeah. And what is your next thing that you're training for?
It's the pull-ups. The original one was the burpees. And again, guys, like, you're going to get sign blind. Like, I did it for 90 days, 1 hour of burpees. And then my back got significantly destroyed over the course of 70 to 80 days. Like, it was hard for me to walk. I'm always complaining. I'm like, you see me waking up in the morning, that amount of volume and that amount of tension and flexion did a lot on my back that I had to stop. And then we pivoted. It's like, okay, what can I do that I'm already equipped for? So pull-ups was the big thing, and we've been testing it, and that's going to be the next big one. Flying out Bronson for that one. It's going to be a pretty cool documentary for sure.
Yeah. I'm excited. It's just in the beginning right now, but there'll be more to come on that. But I did want to say, it brings up the fact a lot of people were asking, someone actually said, how the hell did your biceps and forearms not fall apart? And you did mention like Corey in the recovery, but I think it's also interesting to note that you did just try and do an hour worth of burpees, and you did get to a point where you did end up pivoting because it was past the point of you being able to recover. And that didn't necessarily happen with Murph. You found ways to continue to do it. And so what did that recovery entail? What did you have to figure out that you needed to do?
On Murph or?
Yeah, to continue to do Murph. Like outside of like having Corey massage you, what did your recovery look like? I think there were so many people who asked that.
Yeah, I think they assume my recovery was being created in that 1,000, but it already has been. Right. Way before that.
Right. Before, when you were doing 75 hard, you were having to recover from those harder workouts. Yeah. So it's an accumulation of habits over the past 15 years. You know, if you want, I'm a big believer that there's no such thing as overtraining. You're just under recovering. 100%. So some of the things that I think why my body healed so much is, one, I don't drink, right? I don't smoke. Yep. I sleep 8 to 10 hours a night, right? Not 10 hours, but definitely around 8. Yeah. I foam roll. I do soft tissue. I do passive stretching. I do walking. I meditate, right? It's like I have a massage therapist that can work on me. He's done it 3 times in 1 week when I was injured. Yeah. You know, and we have a physical therapist now that really corrects my imbalances. So I'm able to not only perform at the volume, but perform at a volume where I'm not injuring myself. So he's correcting things like in terms of mechanics. But that's like learning how to eat took 2-3 years before 75 hard. Sleeping took 2 or 3 years.
before 75 hard.
Yeah, not drinking
Right? Not
started
drinking,
with 75 hard.
Yeah, not drinking started with 75 hard. Learning how to eat vegetables took a challenge that we did with vegetables.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like accumulation of those things. That's the recovery. And over time, your body's going to be like, thank you for taking care of me. I'm going to give you one more rep for today.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you for taking care of me for the past 90 days. Here's another thing you can do.
Mm-hmm.
And there were so many of those events. That's what I'm saying. It's an accumulation of habits, both physical, mental, spiritual.
Yeah.
And even the spiritual side I didn't realize I have massive health recovery from that, because it really puts you into this like relaxed state
Mm-hmm.
when you're taking in good news.
Right.
So that was happening. But don't get me wrong, I got injured,
Mm-hmm.
right? There were moments where my biceps weren't bending. I'd have to do one pull-up at a time. I couldn't do the negative,
Mm-hmm.
right? But then that's when I was like, Corey, I got to see you five times this week. Is it possible? Right? And he's like, yeah, let's do it.
Yeah.
So I'd have to double up my yoga. I'd have to double up my walking. Some days it's just like I didn't do a second workout. I just walked.
Mm-hmm.
That was recovery. So like there's so many, you just have to listen. And I think what made my body strong was because of those injuries and how you adapted based on those injuries.
Right. Not giving up. And in fact, just seeing what else can I do in addition, like an additive approach, instead of some people are just going to say, I'm injured. What am I going to stop doing?
Yeah.
Like you're always adding something in and fine tuning and learning how can I recover? Because you've seen other athletes who are able to do things at this high volume. So it's possible.
Yeah.
But I felt like you're always saying like what's missing if you're not able to do something or you were injured.
Yeah. I think the underlining message is just don't be passive in your injuries.
Mm-hmm.
Be active in it. Like really look at it holistically. What's my sleep? How much stress am I holding in my life?
Mm-hmm.
How much mobility work am I doing? Am I eating enough protein?
Yeah.
Right? What did I do differently that's causing this?
Mm-hmm.
What mechanics can I improve? Like you got to be active in your injuries. And if you're active in your injuries, that's how you start becoming a monster.
Right.
And that's why I'm like, I'm not afraid to push because I already know how I would respond.
Mm-hmm.
Don't be afraid of the injury. Be afraid of how you respond to that injury.
Yeah.
And if your response is actively getting better throughout it instead of just omitting it, it's going to be fun watching you.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And I think, too, to remind people, we also have a lot of videos on our page that are about some of these basics of nutrition and stress management. So those would be good tools to check out if you're just starting.
Yeah.
And kind of last question for you, because this is the thing that came up quite frequently in the comments, too, was people just saying, should I try this? Like, if it's somebody... I know you've already gotten messages from people who have just gone out and done it, but there are some people who seem a little bit like hesitant, like, can I do this? Like, how should I even start? For people who don't have that gym background already, is there a way that they could start if they've been inspired?
Don't try it. Train it. Trying is like it's one of the worst vocabularies for me. Like words mean something to me.
Mm-hmm.
Trying means you're just going to go out there and just nonchalantly get after it, and then you're going to get rhabdo.
Yeah.
Training for it means you're going to change your life in some format.
Mm-hmm.
I want to train to do Murph. I'm going to start eating a little better every single day. I'm going to start running. I'm going to start walking 3 times a week. Training is habitual. Trying is like temporary.
Mm-hmm. Right. Like a one-time, an off, I'll just do it once.
Yeah. I didn't try to do 1,000 Murphs. I trained to do that.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't I'm not trying to beat a world record in pull-ups or burpees. I'm training to do that.
Mm-hmm.
And those are what people are never going to see.
Right. The
11 minutes you see is almost 11 years worth of preparation, of training, not trying.
Mm-hmm.
Like that's that's my simple thing. And, it's hard for people to grasp because it's really aggressive, but that's how I would speak to myself now.
Right.
Like, do you want an awesome business? Stop trying, train. Do you want an awesome relationship? Well, start creating a cadence to train an awesome relationship. We have date nights. We have like hard conversations. Like, those are some things like we do things.
Right.
I know what they mean. Like, should I try this? And I love it. I love that you said that, but I really do encourage you to evolve that word from try to train.
Mm-hmm.
Because trying is not very fruitful. Training is where it's at.
I love that. If they are ready to train and they are inspired to do something with you or our team, is there any resources that we can leave for people or anything that we can tell them about?
Yeah, we started it, right? So we're so thankful that it was just one at first. Like that one person was like, I lost 20 pounds just walking from your video.
Mm-hmm.
And it just blew my mind. I was like, you watched that video and you started walking, you lost 20 pounds. He was like, yeah, I just want to let you know that it helped me.
Mm-hmm.
That was one message. And then another message is like, hey, this is my 10th Murf. I'm so inspired. Me and my partner have been doing it every single day. And it's still happening right now. Like every day I show you it.
Mm-hmm.
I'm like, look, this person just actually did something with it. Look, this person just did that. There's so many of those moments. And I kind of felt responsible to bring these people together.
Mm-hmm.
So someone here is watching right now that wants to walk their first mile or maybe do their first pull-up or do their first Murph. So I wanted to create a group where I can bring all of those together regardless of who it is. So we're doing our first ever cohort online where it's group-led, right? And it's just 30 days where they get to move, and it's essentially the checklist. It's very similar to what 75 Hard was able to accomplish. It's not just a physical thing; it's a holistic thing. Mm-hmm. It's a challenge for adding habits, not just adding a workout.
Yeah,
and it's not a course. It's a change vehicle. It's set up like a course, like you can see my face and we're explaining kind of some of the details and frequently asked questions. But at the end of the day, we want to be able to take a person from point A to point B at a level that we've never done before, which is online. We've been doing it for years, one-on-one setting and one-to group setting in person, but we've never done it at another zip code, right? We've never it's just fascinating to me that it's able to reach that many people. And again, like, it's just, if we can do it with just one person, that would be pretty amazing. Yeah. So the link is on the show notes if you guys want to participate, for sure.
Yeah. And if you've watched the video this far, thank you. And also, you're probably a pretty good candidate, because if you've watched us and you liked us or seen any of our other podcast episodes, like, you probably would do well. If you are attracted to what we're saying, you would probably be great for the program. So we will put that in the show notes. And again, I want to thank everyone for liking, sharing, and all of the comments and great questions. And hopefully we answered a lot of those today, but certainly this is another good place to put more comments, and we'll continue to do episodes where we answer some of these questions as well.
Cool. Peace. Thanks, guys.